guys, it's Frankie Widows here, and what I wanted to do today was just to very quickly share with you how I styled this beautiful client that we've got here in this picture. Just to talk you through what I did so that maybe it can help some of you that are new to the industry or some of you that struggle with styling, because as we all know, styling is so difficult. It takes so many years to master it, and I'm sort of 7 years into my lashing career now, and even I get it wrong some days. I think I had one client, it took me 9 months to figure out what I had to do to get it right on her. So, you know, if you're struggling with styling, really don't worry too much about it, but I do hope that this little video will assist some of you in just understanding why I did what I did on this client. So first of all, this is my absolutely stunning client, Kirsty. She is a personal trainer. She wore lashes a long time ago, when lashes were very new. I don't think she had an overly great set on. They were very thick, very clumpy. She said they were very painful. So it was really nice to give her a set and just show her that the industry's come a really long way and that they shouldn't hurt, they shouldn't pinch. And I can style her to suit what it is that she wanted. So the lashes that I used on her here were Eyelash Excellence CC Curl in 0.06 millimeters, and I used a combination of 3D, 4D, 5D and 6D, which is the maximum that she can support on her natural lashes. And I catered the volume of the fan to the natural lash that I was applying it to, because not every natural lash can hold up to 6D. There's going to be little baby anagens in there that can only hold 3D. So it's important that we do customise the set to keep everything safe, so that she can come back week after week and her lashes are healthy. Because if I overload them, give it a couple of months, they will start to thin out. It's called traction alopecia. And then what have I got to stick it to? So for me to have repeat clients coming in, it's really important that I maintain their lash health, so I've got something to apply to when they come back. So the styling that I did was a dolly stroke kitten style. Now a dolly style has quite a lot of length, more towards the inner corner of the eye. I tend to find a lot of the younger clients really like this effect, and it's called the dolly because if you look at any child's doll, it pretty much has one length from the inner corner to the outer corner, but we can't do that on clients because not only does it distort the face, but the inner lashes and the outer lashes are very delicate, so they can't support very long lengths. We have to lash them shorter. But what we actually aim to do is give as much length as we can across the main eye so that we give that open eye effect, but we protect those inner and outer corners. And I combined it with a kitten effect, which actually has more of a peak towards where the brow peaks on most people, so on the outer third of the eye, and then I always come back down shorter on the outer corner. So as you can see from this client, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my little arrow in to assist you. You can see that here we've actually got quite a lot of length starting from here. We're actually peaking up over the eye and we're dropping back downwards. So like I said, we've combined the dolly and kitten effect, because actually if this was a kitten effect, it would be much shorter through here. It would actually peak up here where her brow is peaking and it would come back down. But by actually combining the dolly effect, we've got more height going on here, as you can see, from her inners to this section and peaking and coming back down. So my lash mat that I used on her, my lengths were 8 millimeters in the inners, going up to a 9, then to a 10, then to an 11, then to a 12 through this section. So it was my biggest section that I had, and I dropped back down to an 11, a 10 and a 9. So dropping back short on this outer corner actually keeps this lift that everybody wants. Most people actually think that they want a cat effect. They want it to extend all the way to the outer corner. But actually, if you keep the length very long on the outer corner, not only is it going to cause those natural lashes on the outer corner to droop due to the weight, because long lashes weigh a lot more, but also it drags the eye downwards. And what you want is the lift up here, because that's what most people want. They want that lift. It's how they do their makeup. They wing their makeup in this area. So if you ever have clients asking for a cat effect, I don't think it's really what they want. What they want is more of a kitten or more of a flick at the outer corner, and that's only achieved by keeping these outer corners very short. Also, if your eye finishes horizontal or it droops downwards like my eye does, a cat effect is the most disastrous effect that you can do on someone, because it will actually drag it right down. If you do a cat effect on me, I'll look like I'm asleep. It really isn't good. It can work on clients whose eyes actually finish upwards. So Beyonce, Rihanna have that lovely lifted almond effect, Kim Kardashian. but most clients that you meet don't have this. So this is why the kitten is always a great choice for a lot of clients that request the cat effect and expect it to peak up in the outer corner. And you can see this through here. You can see the lift that has been maintained up through this outer section here where her brow arches and comes back down. The lash styling almost does exactly the same and drops back down into the outer corner. Also, what I've done with my direction is you can see I've made my direction go upwards. So rather than sweeping the lashes really, really far outwards and dragging the eye outwards, I've actually kept my direction this time going upwards, because what this client wanted lift. She wanted the eyes to appear a lot more open. So it's very important that when I was lashing her, the placement of those volume fans was going upwards and was not at all sort of dominoing effect towards the outer corners. On some clients it works really well, but this client didn't want that. So like I said, I kept all of my direction going upwards, and you can see exactly the same on this eye. We're going up, 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 and even the outer corners are angled upwards to keep that lift in the outer corner, to keep that eye lifted upwards, and actually to match her brow that she shapes going up here. I also did quite a wispy textured effect. So a lot of the time when I'm judging in competitions, what we're looking for is a super sharp top line. We tend to like to see lashes that all meet at the same point, almost like you've cut them with scissors, so there's a super sharp top line. But to be honest, in the real world, not every client really likes that. They tend to like that wispy textured effect that you get. So what I did on this client was I kind of did a technique called feathering, where we use multiple lash lengths per zone. So in my 12mm zone here, I would actually have 11mm and 10s in there. So it gives like a staggered wispy effect. It just makes the tips a little bit more textured. Whereas like I said, when we're judging, we actually like all of the lashes to come together in a nice sharp top line. And that's achieved by lashing the layers differently. So if you had a 12mm zone, your lower lash layer would be 12mm, but your middle lash layer would be 11 and your top lash layer would be 10, so that all of the tips meet completely flush. But in this case, I didn't do that. I had a bit of a free rein, I had a bit of a play around. It didn't really matter what I did with the layering, because we wanted to achieve that really wispy effect. Also, you can see that I've got quite a dark effect going along through the bottom here. Now, this is also achieved by correct lighting. So when I took this picture, I moved my lamp around to create a shadow. And this is very, very clever. You need to do this when you're taking pictures of your work, because sometimes the positioning of your light will actually distort the lashes, whereas you want to get them in their true light. So by moving your lamp around, you can get this. And because I used a CC curl, you do get a bit of a shadow. You get this as well with a D curl. So if you want to do a little experiment, hold your hand out flat like you're feeding a horse, and then bring your fingertips over now to touch your hand. You'll see that your fingertips create a shadow underneath, and that shadow is what you get when you use a stronger curl, especially in volume. Whereas if you flatten your fingers back out again like you're going to feed the horse again, you'll see there's no shadow. So by using stronger curls, you're going to naturally create that shadow that a lot of clients want, that are going to give them an eyeliner effect. Now, I also, with this client, she actually had some quite sparse areas here in the inner corner, and over this eye just here, she had a sparse area. So what I actually did was, when I did my fans, usually I go for a very pointed base. I like it to be very seamless, very pointed. But in this area, I actually allowed my bases to be a little bit flatter. So they were almost a little bit T-bar-y, or a little bit more wedge-like, which technically kind of goes against what we teach. But sometimes when you're lashing, you just have to do things to meet that client's requirements and to correct different areas in the lash line. So although it's not technically correct, what I did is still safe. It's not going to cause damage. It's not going to be uncomfortable for her. But it just creates a little bit more of an eyeliner effect. So although I'm not an advocate for teaching T-bars, which I call them, which are big, thick, wedgy lashes at the bottom, sometimes you can use them to your advantage when you know what you're doing. So I'm not saying it's a no-no, but you need to know how to use them correctly, like I've done here. just especially in some of her inner corners where I had to fill those areas out. However, in these very, very inners, my bases were still very, very seamless to get a nice bond and also to blend nicely, because if you have a big thick T-bar in the inner corner, you're really going to see this, because these are the areas that you are drawn to, whereas over the middle of the lash line you can tend to hide them in the set, so a lot of people can't see them. So for me, always my inners and my outers are super clean, perfect fans, nice pointy bases, because they're the areas that always show up in the photographs. Now, usually on most of my sets, I do apply very short lashes to the inner and outer corner. So inner corners normally start at a 6mm, sometimes even a 5, because then you get that distinction between short and long. So most sort of good sets will go very short and then go up to a long and graduate back down. You get this lovely shaping, you get that distinction between the lengths. If you were to only use, let's say, 9s, 10s, 11s in your set, it would actually look like all of your lashes were kind of the same length. So especially at competition standard, we like to see lashes very, very short in the inner corners and a little bit length here, so that we get a nice arcing of that top line. Yes, I've still managed to achieve that here, but actually I started with an 8mm because we were going for that dolly effect. We wanted that more open eye effect. So actually I was using 2mm longer than I actually normally use on most of my clients, because my client requested that. When we sat down at her consultation and went through loads of photos, I showed her lots of different photographs of sets that I'd done, and she didn't like the shorter inner corners, so that I knew on her what she wanted. And this is something else I recommend, is that sit with your client at their consultation, show them pictures, because what they actually say and what they have in their head are two very, very different things. So if you can show them visual guides, visual images, you can understand what it is that you're trying to achieve on them. Also, this client has a little bit of a hood. Can you see her skin here? Has like a fold, it has a hood. Now, a lot of the time this does come with age, but on some other people it is just purely genetics. It's just one of them things that you're born with. It's not really an issue, of course, in the industry or any beauty industry. It's put out there as an imperfection, as an undesirable feature, and you know, I hate to think of things like that, because it's just what God gave us at the end of the day. But if a client really isn't happy with it, you can actually do a lot with your styling to disguise this. And this is one of the issues that this client had. So also by using those longer lengths here, we've kind of disguised that, because as you can see, the lashes are lifting up over this little fold, this little hood, whereas if I had lashed there at a 6, they would have sat underneath the fold and you would have seen the fold. So on this client, to meet her request was to hide that, I had to go longer in the inner corners, and she could support it, but my inner corners were only 3D, so only 3 extensions, because they're still very delicate, and if I was to put a 6D fan on them, they would overload it. The lashes would droop in the inner corner, and obviously they would start to thin out because there's too much pressure on them. I always say, imagine a big fat pigeon landing in a tree that's got a tiny little branch. What happens to that branch? The branch will actually bend under the weight of the pigeon, and as the pigeon keeps landing on that branch every single day, eventually that branch is going to snap and it will break off and it won't grow back. And that's what happens to natural lashes if we overload them. So we have to be very, very careful when we are lashing our clients. So by using the CC curl, we actually were able to lift up and cover this little fold or hood that she's got. If I'd used a C curl on this client, firstly it wouldn't have given her that drama or that open eye effect that she wanted, but also it would have done nothing to hide this little fold of skin. So I wanted to use the CC curl on her. I think on her, a D curl may have been a little bit too dramatic, so I always play safe with the CC curl, but you know, if she likes that or she wanted a little bit of drama, we could upgrade to a D at her infill and we'd just, you know, build them into the set. But we are also limited because she has got that hood and that fold of skin. What we would find is that to actually extend out from the hood and cover up, we'd have to use a lot more length, and obviously more length is more weight, and it doesn't allow us to build big fans. So if I wanted to use a D curl on her, I'd probably have to lash her at a 13 or a 14mm, and it would mean that probably 4D would only be the maximum that I could use, because I'm having to counteract the extra length, which means extra weight, so she wouldn't get the fullness. So you can see how it's about understanding the right curl, how much level of volume that you can use to give them the fullest look but not compromise the lash safety. Now there are also 2 problem areas in this set that you can't see, because actually I've managed to disguise it with the lashing. This client actually has a peak here. Her eyelid goes up and it's got like a little, almost like mountain point that goes up here. And the same on this inner corner, which I first noticed when I went through her Instagram pictures when she sent me a message. And I could see that when she wore strip lashes, she struggled because the strip lashes would peak at this point and then ping off in the inner corner. So I knew that I had to consider this area here and not lash it too long, because if I lashed it too long or jumped my zone up over the peak, I would have got a visible spike. So I had to be very, very careful in these corners to make sure that I didn't accentuate that. Also, she has a quite distinguishable droop on the outer corner, which again you can't see because I've maintained and lifted this outer corner. So from here, so from almost where her iris finishes, she actually very quickly descends back downwards. So if I'd done sort of a cat effect or put all of my length on the outer corner, it would have really accentuated that. And I won't lie, I was looking at it thinking, I'm really, really worried about that area. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to maintain that lift. I did consider jumping up to a D curl in the outer corner, but again, I had this hood that I had to worry about. So I thought, you know what, her first appointment, I'm going to play safe with a CC curl and then see how it looks. And if I need to go up to a D in the outer corners at her infill, I will do. But actually, I was really pleased with the way in which these turn out. So I'm just showing you that even 7 years into my career, I don't always know that I'm going to get this right. It really is a case of having a go, doing what you think is going to work. And if it doesn't, going, okay, that didn't work, I will adjust it at the infill. And I always make sure that I educate my clients on that and say, look, if we don't get it quite right, or there's something that you don't like, we can do tweaks at your infill, but I make sure that they understand that they're tweaks and I can't redesign the whole set because that would be a full removal and a full application. But I can tweak it over the infills to try and achieve what it is that we want. So what I actually did was I cleansed this client first of all, got all of her lashes squeaky clean, and then I got her to sit in front of me and look at me. I actually got her to look at kind of like my sort of mouth area. I had my mask on at the time. I said, right, look at my mouth, because then her eyes were not too much looking at me that I couldn't mark her eyelids. So by her looking at me, I was then able to use a little bit of eyeliner and mark a dot on her eyelid here and a dot on her eyelid here. So that when she actually closed her eye and I went to map her, I knew that these were the problem areas, and that's where I had to really think about what I was doing. And in this corner here, I knew that was where I actually had to start extending my lengths to counteract that droop. So you can't actually lash map somebody with them laying down. You have to map them with their eyes open, because actually you can't see it when their eyes are closed. Everything changes shape. So always after cleansing, sit them in front of you and put marks on their eyelid so that you know where the areas are where you need to either accentuate or you need to disguise some features that you've got going on. Now also this client, she's a personal trainer, so she spends every day in the gym, she trains really hard, she sweats a lot, and this is one of the things that she was worried about, whether lash extensions would actually be suitable for her because of this. And the answer is yes, they are. Okay, they may get a little bit more breakdown than the normal client that doesn't go to the gym as much as she do, but it doesn't mean that you can't wear them, and sometimes you just have to give it a go on a client and see how they get on with them. So bearing in mind that she was a personal trainer, or she is a personal trainer, I decided to use a little bit more adhesive on her, so more than I would do every day. So I still kept it very safe, I still kept it very seamless, but I just grabbed a little bit more. It ran up the fan a little bit more, so it kind of closed the fan a bit more, but I have to do that to ensure that she's going to get good retention, because we have to use enough glue to be able to suit that client. So if you've got clients that are very oily, definitely recommend putting a little bit more adhesive on there just to help with the oils that are going to break down that adhesive. Obviously, if you're lashing at competition level, you're having to do everything to the book. But when you're lashing real clients that are paying you money and are going away and expecting to get 2 or 3 weeks out of their lashes, you've got to do what you've got to do to actually make their sets last. So in this case, I used a little bit more adhesive. It also helped with giving her a darker base. Because this client is blonde, her lashes were quite fair, so by just using a little bit more adhesive along the base of the fan, it just helped to create that little bit more of an eyeliner, darker effect on her and give her added retention to help try and counteract sort of any breakdown that could happen on the bonds through her sweating every day in the gym. Now this client also had quite a few of upper layer lashes that sat outside of the main lash line, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. We have 3 layers and they do grow in bottom, middle and top, but sometimes you get like a top layer. and you'll get a few that will actually sit outside. Now she had one up here that I lashed originally, and when I checked with my dental mirror, so I always check with my dental mirror as I'm going through the set, it just stood out like a sore thumb. It didn't matter how I lashed it, whether I lashed it short, whether I lashed it the same length as the zone, it just stuck out. So I had to take that one off and I had to leave it. But some of the other ones that sat very, very high, I made sure that I lashed them very short. So even in her 12mm zone, there was 2 in there that were actually sitting very high. So I put an 8mm on them, so they didn't stick out at all. So they still gave coverage, but it made sure that they blended into the set. So always consider that. Always check with your dental mirror, because when you're sitting behind the client, what you can see from your position is not what you see when the eye's open. So get yourself a little dental mirror. We do sell them on the shop, eyelashexcellence.com, and check every 15 minutes or so as you're working your set to make sure that you've got no lashes that are sitting out of position. I think I also had one on this eye that I'd placed too low, so there was a fan that kept hanging downwards. So on that one, I actually decided to remove that and just leave it. It didn't affect the set, but it just, if I'd have left it on, it just would have really, really spoiled the set. So dental mirror is great for just always checking your work as you go. So guys, that was a really short tutorial. I just hoped that that would help some of you out there to understand what it is that we do when we're coming to styling, how every set that we do is very, very bespoke to that client. I always get my clients in for a consultation and patch test at least 48 hours before. I know it's a bit of a pain in the bum for some clients, but in the UK we have to legally patch test every new client. So it's a great opportunity to have a consultation with them, to instill confidence in them that you know what you're talking about. Again, this lady said to me, oh my God, this didn't happen at my last appointment. She just put lashes on me. But the fact that you've gone through everything, you've spoken about what it is that you're going to do, you've shown me the lashes, you've shown me pictures. You know, she was really, really happy because she had that confidence that I knew what I was doing at the end of the day. So for me, I love to have those consultations beforehand so that I can give that confidence in them. And it also gives me time to go away between their patch test and their appointment to actually think, is that the right style for them? To keep looking at pictures. I do sometimes take photographs of them at their patch test so that I can just go and figure it out, so that when they come for their full set, we are absolutely good to go. There's no faffing around at the start. I can get them in there, get them on the couch. I've got all of my lashes set up and I know what it is that we're doing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. Like I said, styling your clients is really difficult. We don't always get it right. If you're new to the industry, this is going to take you years and years to perfect. And even then, you're not going to get it right all of the time. I know there's actually not that many styling classes out there, and a lot of people don't want to invest in them. They tend to do the beginner's course and then they want to jump on that volume bandwagon. But to be honest, if you can't style a client correctly, really don't start offering volume, because when people are paying a lot more money for volume, they're expecting everything. They expect to walk out there with the right styling, and if you don't deliver on the styling, it doesn't matter whether you've done the best set of classics or the best set of volume, it can look horrendous. And trust me, I've made so many mistakes over the year with this. So if you are looking for a styling class, guys, we do an awesome online one. Go to eyelashexcellence.com, find the online training menu and drop down through that and you'll find our online eye styling class. It's something that I do recommend that you take. Even if you're volume trained, don't be worried to take a step backwards, because most of what you do is about styling your client correctly. And like I said, if you can't do that, it doesn't matter if your set is the best set out there. And even when we're judging, judging criteria, we give top marks for styling. Your styling can come in at 10 marks. And if your styling is off, you could actually only score a 3 or 4. So that's 6 marks that you've lost if you've not styled your client correctly. So as you can see, styling is, and I'm sorry to harp on about it, guys, but styling is really important. So like I said, if you are looking for a styling class, something that you can learn online, which you can, very easily in the comfort of your own home and take your time to go through it, do check us out at the website. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to also check me out on Instagram, which is at Frankie Widows. Also my Facebook page is Frankie Widows Eyelash Excellence. And have a great evening, guys, and I do hope that you enjoyed that one.